Have you ever watched your most sacred memory get shredded daily by a spoiled rich kid treating your front yard like his private racetrack? What if the smiling HOA president, the self-proclaimed guardian of community harmony, not only ignored it but weaponized every rule to protect her precious son while fining everyone else for a crooked mailbox? And what if one quiet, perfectly legal ditch turned that $500,000 ego machine into twisted scrap metal right in front of the whole neighborhood, exposing the Karen for the hypocritical tyrant she always was? Picture Sunnyvale Estates at 7:05 a.m. sharp, the kind of cookie-cutter American suburb where every blade of grass is exactly 3.25 inches tall per HOA code, and every complaint gets answered with a color-coded violation notice. On the surface it looked peaceful. White fences, blooming azaleas, kids on bikes. But the real dictator wasn't elected. She was Karen Whitaker, HOA president for 9 straight years, with her helmet blonde hair sprayed into submission and a voice that could quote bylaws while stabbing you with a smile. Her 23-year-old son Derek, still living in the 6-car garage mansion funded by Daddy's Silicon Valley exit, drove a screaming bright orange Dodge Challenger Hellcat that cost more than most of our houses. Every single morning that demonic supercharged growl ripped through the dawn like entitlement on wheels, and every single morning Derek sliced the exact same corner across my front lawn, carving deep ugly ruts like someone had taken a cheese grater to silk. That lawn wasn't just turf. My wife and I had built this house together after I retired from carpentry. We spent weekends on our knees testing soil pH, choosing the perfect seed blend so the grass stayed that impossible emerald green she called our morning heaven. She passed 2 years ago, and every blade was the last physical piece of her laughter I had left. Watching Derek treat it like disposable dirt felt like watching him spit on her grave in slow motion. First couple times I told myself he was just careless. I walked over one sunny afternoon, knocked politely on their fortress door. "Morning, Derek," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Look, those tire tracks are tearing up my yard pretty bad. Mine's sticking to the street from now on." He leaned in the doorway like I was a telemarketer, shrugged with all the sincerity of a used car salesman. "Bro, it's grass. Dad will Venmo it, man." Then he laughed, actually laughed, and shut the door. I stood there tasting copper in my mouth but swallowed it. Yelling would only make me the crazy neighbor in their story. Next morning at 7:05 he didn't just cut the corner. He floored it, tires spinning for 4 full seconds, flinging chunks of my lawn onto the sidewalk like confetti at a funeral. That was the moment something inside me clicked from grieving widower to quiet strategist. I started documenting everything, timestamps, measurements, before and after photos. I sent a certified letter to Karen's husband detailing cumulative damage and requesting reimbursement plus a cease and desist. Zero response. 2 days later, voice dripping that fake neighbor sweetness she used at every HOA meeting. "Owen, sweetie," she cooed like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum, "we're a community here in Sunnyvale. Let's focus on neighborly relations instead of, well, turf wars." She actually chuckled at her own pun. "Derek's just a car enthusiast. Boys will be boys. Gift you a certificate to that cute garden center on Elm. No need to make a federal case out of a little mud." I kept my tone ice calm. "Your son is deliberately driving a 2-ton vehicle through my late wife's memorial garden after I asked him to stop. As HOA president, you're supposed to enforce rules for everyone, not just enable family. This is straight-up harassment." Her sweetness shattered like cheap crystal. "Watch your tone, Owen. And you'll find a violation notice in your mailbox faster than you can say, pristine lawn requirement. Your grass better be perfect by next inspection or we'll talk fines." Click. She hung up before I could answer. That phone call was the gauntlet. Bylaws she herself rewrote every year, was built to shield people like them. Polite letters? Useless. HOA meetings? She just gavel me down with Section 4.2. Unauthorized modifications. I had to hit them where it actually hurt. Publicly, physically, and with ironclad proof they couldn't spin. So the next day I didn't file more paperwork. I went into my garage, pulled out the long-handled spade Claire and I used for her rose beds, and spent the entire afternoon digging a narrow, shallow trench 8 inches deep, 10 inches wide, running precisely 2 feet inside my property line, right along the corner Derek always attacked. I reinforced the bottom with heavy mesh, laid fresh sod plugs on top, brushed in loose soil and fallen leaves until it blended perfectly. From 10 feet away it looked like innocent lawn. Underneath it was axle snapping justice. I positioned 3 4K security cameras with perfect sightlines and timestamps, then invited my neighbor Mrs. Lopez over for coffee, or excessive holiday lights, while Karen's Christmas display looked like Times Square. "You've been digging, Owen," she said, eyebrow raised. "New sprinkler line?" I gave her the first real smile I'd worn since Claire passed. "Something like that. Really aggressive orange pest that keeps ruining Claire's carpet." Her eyes lit up with pure mischief. "Oh my God, you beautiful menace. When does the show start?" "I'll bring popcorn," I nodded. "Your phone." That night I barely slept, but not from nerves, from anticipation. The trap was set, the cameras rolling, and for the first time in 2 years I felt something sharper than grief: control. 7:04 a.m. Coffee in hand, heart steady. The neighborhood was still quiet, curtains half drawn, everyone pretending they didn't notice the daily show. 7:05 exactly, that familiar demonic roar ripped around the corner. The bright orange Hellcat appeared like a charging bull, Derek leaning into the turn way too fast, head tilted toward my house like he expected to see me cowering again. He accelerated straight at my property line, front wheels aimed at the exact spot he always cut. The moment the left tire hit the hidden edge, it wasn't a bump. It was a violent, sickening crunch, carbon fiber splitter meeting unyielding earth. The whole car lurched nose first into the trench, back wheels spinning uselessly in the air, flinging dirt and grass 10 feet high like a cartoon explosion. The supercharger screamed, then died with a pathetic cough. Silence. Our machine sat there high-centered and humiliated, oil leaking in a slow, shameful puddle. I walked out onto my porch, set my phone on the railing already recording, and just stood there arms crossed. No yelling. Just watching the tableau like a director admiring his masterpiece. Derek scrambled out, face cycling from white to purple. You psychotic old freak. What the hell did you do to my car?" I took a slow sip of coffee. "Go for control system, Derek. Fully within my property boundaries. County surveyor confirmed it yesterday. Those rodents kept tearing up Claire's turf. Had to get creative. You know?" "Gophers. That's a trap. This is assault. I'm calling the cops. My mom's gonna have your house bulldozed." I just pointed down the street, gliding around the corner. Lights on but sirens off. I'd called the non-emergency line at 6:55, calmly reporting a vehicle repeatedly trespassing and damaging private property, license plate on file, predicted time and location. Karen came sprinting down her driveway, still in a thin silk bathrobe and bunny slippers, hair half sprayed, face a mask of panic. "Derek! Officer, you cannot tow that. This man dug a deliberate hazard to destroy my son's vehicle. This is harassment. I'm the HOA president. I'll file an emergency violation right now." Officer Thompson, the older one who'd clearly dealt with Sunnyvale drama before, held up a hand. "Ma'am, let's assess." I stepped forward, handed him my phone. "Officer, here's 3 weeks of timestamp video showing repeated deliberate property damage, the certified letter I sent that was signed for, satellite imagery proving the trench is 100% on my land, and footage of what just happened." Thompson watched Derek's previous donut spins, then eyed the leaking Hellcat. "Mr. Baxter has done everything by the book. Your son drove recklessly onto private property. We're towing the vehicle and issuing citations for reckless driving and criminal trespass." Karen's authority evaporated like cheap perfume in the wind. But the HOA bylaws. Section 7.3 clearly states no hazards on lots. I'll sue him for nuisance. I'll fine him into oblivion. Thompson sighed, the tired sigh of a man who'd heard it all. "Ma'am, this is police business now, not your little club rules. Call your insurance. Mr. Baxter will be back for harassment charges. The tow truck arrived 10 minutes later. The sight of that once mighty orange Hellcat being winched up, scraping and groaning like a wounded animal, was pure poetry. Derek stood mute, pale, watching his entire personality get hauled away on a flatbed. By noon, Mrs. Complete with Karen's robe-flapping meltdown, was everywhere in the neighborhood group chat titled HOA Queen Dethroned, Supercar vs. Grandpa's Ditch. The backlash was nuclear. Years of her petty fines, selective enforcement, and boys will be boys excuses finally boiled over. That same evening's emergency HOA meeting ended with her voted out in a landslide. Derek's car needed a new front axle, steering rack, and full repaint. Bill so astronomical his father made him liquidate half his crypto wallet. He now drives a dented gray sedan, 5 miles under the limit, never once glancing my way. A week later I stood on the porch watching the landscaper finish reseeding the trench area. The lawn looked flawless again, Claire's heaven restored. I felt deep, bone-level satisfaction, but that quiet voice in my head, the one that still sounded like her, whispered, "Owen, did you become the thing you hated?" Here's the truth, folks. I protected what was sacred. I stood up to a bully who hid behind rules. And I broke the stranglehold of a corrupt HOA with nothing but patience and one legal ditch. But that cold, calculated revenge? It leaves a different scar than grief. I got my peace back, yet I still wonder if the cost was turning into the very monster Derek always assumed I was. So tell me, if someone was destroying the last memory of the person you loved most, would you have dug that trap? Or would you have just taken the gift card and stayed quiet? Drop your thoughts below. Property rights or revenge? Let's talk. And if you want more suburban justice stories, smash that like button. Because in Sunnyvale Estates, the grass is never greener on the other side for long.